Hello, everybody, and welcome to One Day Today. This is episode 36. I'm really excited about today. We had a really amazing share stories and guests last Tuesday, and I'm really excited about both guests today. There's a lot of amazing things going on in the world, and I've just all the people I've been talking to, family and friends, and people I've been meeting, and you know, it fascinates me, like how powerful our conversations are. How people, you ask people you haven't talked to in a while, friends I haven't talked to in a while, or people I'm just meeting, and it's like, how are you? Or excuse me, or I'll ask, what's your experience of the world? And sometimes you can hear when people share, obviously there's a lot going on in the world. There's chaos, there is some suffering, and there is pandemic, but at the same time, there's all these beautiful things happening that's opening up despite that. And, how people are coming together, how communities and individuals, and, that's the point of this movement, is to highlight the beauty in our world. But I think it's fascinating how we talk about it. Sometimes we'll say like, oh, I'm having a really hard time and everything is turning terrible. And it's how much we project our experience with how we explain our reality, and our language really perpetuates that reality. And it's something that I'm seeing, what's possible in bringing beauty into my life, but also toxicity. And I'm really excited to have both our guests. I'm going to welcome and say hello to our co-host, Matthew. Matthew, how are you today, my friend?
What's up, brother man? I'm doing all right. It's been an entertaining day for sure. I'm still with a buddy of mine, helping him house sit and watch the kids for a little while, and decided to go out and figure out the public transit system here in Clarksville today, and had a bit of an adventure, and just kind of touching on what you were just talking about, like noticing some of those projections in my own mind, like some of the frustrations with the inefficiencies of the system that we have today and the imperfections, and also just the lack of heart is like something I've really noticed in a lot of the systems today. And instead of getting frustrated about it, it's just this is what it is. Like I used to get really frustrated about it. I used to project, like you were talking about, and just be angry all the time about like how just crazy this system is that we live under. Like it feels like we're literally run like the crazy people are running the insane asylum is kind of what it feels like in a lot of ways. But the flip side of that is this is the way it is, and there is no changing it in this moment. It's only projecting into the future and creating something different. And if I'm projecting into the future frustration and annoyance, that's what's going to continue to come in my life. And I can give plenty of examples of that actually happening. Um, and then, so accepting what is, recognizing what I'm projecting, what I'm holding about it, and then choosing to project something different, something more heartfelt, something more loving, something more peaceful and um, resonant and harmonious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the opportunity right now, is a new conversation. We we're kind of seeing, everyone's looking in the mirror and quarantine, seeing, how did I end up here? How did the community end up here? How did my country or my world end up here? And it's all comes back to me and us all as me. We all have to take responsibility for our space and our good or toxic parts, and in our spiritual space, and our physical space, and our environment, in our psychological and our emotional space. So and that's why I see so many beautiful things opening up, and that's why this stage for me has been just so powerful, because this, having people share, is just, I almost forget that there's so much tragedy in the world because of how many beautiful people are showing up. And it's like, I see, the more I focus and just share people's stories, the more I feel empowered, and the more people I'm surrounded with are empowered. So it's a beautiful causal chain of events when we just lift up the beauty and focus on it. And I want to welcome our first guest. I'm really excited to have her. We have Elinor Stutz. Hi, Elinor.
Hi, thank you for having me. I
We are
appreciate being
so
here.
excited. Oh, thank you, Elinor. We're really, really excited to have you, and I'm looking forward to hearing you share. And I think I just want to I want to hear you jump. I want to hear you share. So we're just gonna jump into it. So, Elinor, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My first question to you and to the audience is, what if suddenly you were thrust against a wall and no matter which decision you decided to make, it would alter your journey in life forever? Well, that's kind of a preposterous question, except sometimes it suddenly happens, and it happened to me. I was a pioneer saleswoman on all sales, on all male teams, and very badly treated. And I will get to the story in a moment. I just want to give you the background. It was expected I would fail in sales because I'm a female. What do females know? Well, the good news is I wasn't given sales training. Instead, whoever would invite me in for an appointment, that person and I would have a wonderful, enjoyable conversation, and I'd be asked for return appointments, to the point where by the fourth month, the CEO said, if you don't buy from Elinor, you're wasting valuable time and I'm going to fire you. So by the fourth month, I became the top sales representative in the office, and a deep embarrassment to the men. Well, then the games really started. And it happened job after job. Each year, at the end of the year, my hard-earned accounts were given to the men, and my quota tripled for the following year. And what I want you to know is, no matter what hardship you face, no matter how awful it might be, there's a gift in disguise behind it. So fast forward to me being shoved against a wall, so to speak. I was between jobs. It was 11 years of sales employment. I decided to take a day off, have me time, which was very rare in those days because I had a family at home. I was at a red light, couldn't wait to get going to where my heart was taking me. And boom, a woman in the back of me was turned around talking to her toddlers in the back seat, not recognizing that the red light was still there. And she slammed full force into the back of my car. I could feel my brain swing around inside my head. After the fact, I was in terrible pain for 10 years, but no doctor wanted to touch me because of the liability issue. And so there I was. I was just doomed to being in pain the remainder of my life. And then thankfully, I say, one day I was a passenger on a rainy night in a car that made a left turn and slowly skid into a lamppost. And I heard myself very quietly say, I think you better call an ambulance. The ambulance came, lifted me onto a stretcher. And as I was riding toward the renowned Stanford Hospital, thankfully, I started thinking, oh my goodness gracious, my last ride was with my mother. Is this my last ride too? And then I stopped myself and I gave myself a pep talk. Elinor, you have to think positively. You're finally going to have a doctor who can fix your neck and you're going to be well. And that was the mindset I had as I walked. I didn't walk. I was taken into the hospital on the stretcher. My family was taken into a side room nearby to meet with the consulting surgeon. And all of a sudden, I heard a burst of sobs like you couldn't believe. So I knew what the surgeon told him. But at that very same moment in time, I had a near-death experience. And it was unbelievable. So let me share with you what happened. I was on the stretcher and a vision came to me. It was a vision of a generic figure standing on a mound, speaking to audiences far and wide. And I said in the moment, yes, that's what I always wanted to do. I'm going to do everything I can to become that speaker. And with that, a brilliant gold light encased my entire body. That first vision faded away and a second vision came up. And it was in the form, my life in the form of a report card. On the left-hand side, I had very high marks, but the right-hand side was deeply embarrassing. It was blank and entitled community service. In the moment, I said, I will promise to begin giving back to communities any way I can. But being the professional salesperson, I said, but I have to be well and able to walk out of the hospital on my own to be able to do it. There was sort of like a nod of the head the way the vision ended. And then slowly but surely the gold light faded. And I was convinced I was going to be well. Just as the vision went away and the gold light, my family came over to me and I said, don't worry, I'm going to be fine. Go home and get a good night's sleep. They must have thought I was delirious. That night, I was taken into ICU, and to everyone's surprise, the brain surgeon visited the hospital. And he came to my room, of all places, and asked if he could do an experiment. Well, knowing throughout my life, everybody always told me I'm crazy, I thought, finally, the help I need. So I said, sure, without asking any questions. Well, what happens when a person has a broken neck, they hammer a metal halo into your forehead, and 2 metal screws are actually hammered into your forehead. And then a 5-pound weight is attached to the spine. That didn't do anything. The experiment, as in never done before, he attached 60 pounds of weight. And in the moment, I could feel my spine straightening out. Then the students came into the room, and as he told them what he did, being in sales, I watched facial expressions, body language, and listen to the undertones of what's being said. Their eyes almost popped out of their head. They were in disbelief that he chose to do that. But it was confirmation once again I would be well. The next morning, I was heavily medicated and told I have 1 minute to meet the surgeon. I expected words of encouragement, but instead I heard, Mrs. Stutz, when you wake up, most likely you will be paralyzed. And in the moment, I said, doctor, when I wake up, I fully expect to be well. And the last thing I remember was some jumping backwards. Nobody of the right mind would talk to a surgeon that way, about to cut them open. But hours later, he was standing over me, and I heard him say, Mrs. Stutz, there's no rhyme or reason for what happened, but in 4 days, you will walk out of this hospital. And over the next few days, almost the whole staff on duty came to see me and referred to me as the walking miracle. I only told one person about that occurrence, and she reamed me. I had no right to speak to a surgeon that way. It was disrespectful. And I thought, what? It saved my life. You have to believe in yourself. You have to do everything in your power to have a positive mindset, stand up for what's right, and keep moving forward. That's been the philosophy of my life. So I have not spoken to her very often since that time, truthfully. But I went forward in what I wanted to do. It was time to be an entrepreneur. I did make good with a surgeon. I brought him a basket of goodies, and we gave each other a big, solid hug. And then I went forth. So there are gifts in disguise, as I had mentioned, about what we do in our worst circumstances. All those awful corporate stories were mine as history. I went to my first networking event as an entrepreneur, announced I was a sales trainer. The men couldn't stop laughing. The women ran away shrieking, yelling, oh my God, she must be highly manipulative. So someone kindly took me aside and said, to establish credibility, you have to write a book. I thought, well, my phone's not ringing. So I wrote a book detailing every single awful story in the order that it happened in corporate. I changed all the names to protect the guilty. It broke all records. The first publishing house said yes. I appeared on ABC TV News. It was featured in Time magazine, and it almost instantly became an international bestseller, and today it's evergreen. The title of that book is Nice Girls Do Get the Sale, Relationship Building That Gets Results. That's my first gift in disguise. Second, I kept my promise. Since I was an expert on interviewing, I chose to help communities of job seekers understand how to sell themselves on interviews. And in spite of all the wonderful recognition I got, the most heartwarming piece is all the hundreds of thank you notes that I received in the mail telling me that they were able to secure the job of their choice because of my teaching. So in 2008, after the stock market started to recover a bit, I wrote my second book, Hired: How to Use Sales Techniques to Sell Yourself on Interviews. That was featured on FedEx kiosks coast to coast. I continue with community service through writing of the Smooth Sale blog, speaking on stage when we're allowed to go out, and training teams and groups of entrepreneurs. My website is smoothsale.net, should you like to learn more. But out of this entire story, my motto became believe, become, empower. Believe you can do it, become that person, turn around and empower other people to do the same. That's a different type of leadership where you encourage others to advance beyond where you are. And so there are a lot of lessons from this story. I didn't tell you part B, though. This part, to me, is even more shocking. Are you ready? We moved to Sonoma County, heart of food and wine industry, and I was invited to the one person I knew in that town at the time. We were only there 2 weeks. She invited me to a birthday party at a restaurant. I walk in, everybody's in a large group talking to one another, and I wasn't invited to join the conversation. And out of the blue, an Asian woman comes in and asks to speak with me and gives me instruction to sit down. I sit down. And she's first words out of her mouth, "You Americans are so ignorant about medicine. You don't even know that after a severe accident that your body tries to heal itself, and it happens by molecules working so rapidly inside your body that it produces this brilliant gold light." I felt as if lightning had struck me. How did she know about it? Who was she? I was so in shock. I'm the professional businesswoman. I forgot to ask for her business card. And then she walked out after reprimanding me. But it was the answer I needed. I had not shared my story up until that point. I stayed up all night berating myself for not getting her information. I called the birthday girl the next morning. And she said, "Elinor, we don't know who that woman was. We never saw her before. I'm sure we'll never see her again. It's a mystery why she was even there." So I accepted the mystery, and I've shared my story. And I hope it helps you to believe in yourself, think positively under every circumstance. The worst experiences, if you're willing to learn, are your gifts in disguise. Remember to believe, become, empower. And that's my story. I could not make it up. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Elinor. That's so inspirational. Your whole story, and I admire your courage and your sharing your story and empowering others with all of your experiences. And I think it's really inspiring, and I think it's amazing what your whole story. Where did you? I guess a lot of things resonate with me, but where did you discover? It sounds like when you were in the hospital and you spoke up to that surgeon. Like where did that come from? Like what was that? Like what made you listen to that voice? And like what was it a change? Was that something that was out of character for you, or did you discover something?
Thank you for asking that. As you can tell, I'm an older person. And girls grew up not supposed to be athletic. I'm pretty athletic for my age group. My grandson is surprised at how well I do basketball, by the way. So, but I wasn't supposed to excel in sports. I was supposed to be quiet, sit down, not get dirty, learn to cook and clean. That's all that was expected of girls, and get married, and hopefully somebody will support you. That was the rule. And I said, well, what's the purpose of going to college if that's all I'm supposed to be? I want to be in business. So I used to, instead of watching my mother and my grandmother, I would watch my dad and my older brother. And I'd observe them day in and day out and watch the good and the bad and everything in between. And I did that for everybody I encountered. And then as a teenager, I couldn't stand where I lived. So I started traveling. I traveled internationally. And I learned a lot. And it's through all these experiences that you become more strong-minded. So when he told me most likely I'd be paralyzed, I wasn't going to accept that. I just don't accept it. And it surprises me, like the Me Too movement, if you don't mind my bringing it up. I'm amazed that some people wait 10, 15 years to bring up an incident that happened. I went to a Marriott once upon a time for a job interview, and the fellow instructed concierge to have me come up to the 10th floor. And I said to concierge, will you please call the gentleman back and please repeat these exact words. I expect a professional interview in the lobby. If he's not going to come down, I'm leaving now. So I've always spoken up. He came down. By the time he did, I knew I wasn't going to take the job. You have to speak up. You have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. And it brings to mind the song that Sinatra and Elvis and everybody, a lot of other people sang, I did it my way. We're living our legacy. You have to be proud of what you're doing, how you're living, how you're helping other people. And that's the lesson I learned with a blank page of community service. I became a far better person, and I've had an extra 18 years of life. Wow,
that's incredible. And you pointed to a lot of things that really are powerful. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, why do we withhold? Because I mean, we've all experienced this. Like, there's a fear. It is fear, but it's an egoic fear. It's like a fear of rejection, a fear of failure. But like you brought up the Me Too movement, and like, what do you think is missing for us to take courage in those moments that we need to speak up? Like, how do we distinguish in ourselves when to listen to that, or when to see that voice of fear, but not be that voice of fear?
I think it's your core values, each of our core values: integrity, honesty, consistency, living up to your word, being truthful. I can, I can't, I don't understand. Can you explain to me? And so when other people don't mirror the same, it's not a fit, it's not a connection online, it's not a connection in person, and you need to stand your ground and say no, because otherwise it's a waste of time. I turned down clientele. Oh, do you have time for a funny story just to pinpoint this message?
Sure, let's hear it.
Okay, well, once upon a time, I was excited. I finally met an executive female who wanted to meet with me. Well, she was so rude to me that I went back to the office and I wrote a note. I said, I am so sorry. I can't help you, but I know someone who's the perfect fit. And I was thinking I'd get the last laugh. I knew the most obnoxious salesperson I had ever met up till that point. And so I introduced the two of them. You'll never guess what happened. A month later, they're both on the phone, and they're thanking me for the introduction. They were dating. So it's the connection. You have to connect with like-minded people. And if people don't match your ethics, you have to speak up and walk away.
Oh, yeah. I don't resonate so much with the have to. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be here breathing. I choose to. And I choose to hold these values. And I choose to walk away when it doesn't feel appropriate.
Right. That's a better choice.
Your choices, I love how you put them, and the way, how matter of fact you are about them, because this is something that we don't talk about in our society a lot today, especially the healing. This is not something that's talked about. This is not something that's discussed. It's not something that's taught. And therefore, most people aren't aware of it. So just first of all, thank you for bringing this conversation out. Just thank you for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a treat.
It is, isn't it? And I guess the question is, Abram touched on this, but and you've touched on it a bit too. But where, because clearly this is something that happened early in your childhood. When did you find your voice? Especially that world growing up, where women weren't supposed to talk. Like what? Like was it just the sheer anger at the situation, and like where did that anger come from?
Probably around 8 years old. My mother told me not to do something, and I asked why. She said children aren't supposed to ask. I said, well, I need to know why. If I agree with you, I won't continue doing it. But if I don't agree, I'm going to ask more questions. It was the style of conversation I was brought up with, was the questioning. And then the first time I went to sell Girl Scout cookies, an overweight woman came to the door and she said, I'm sorry, my doctor forewarned me I can't eat any more sugar. And I stood there staring at her. And after a couple of minutes, she said, do you have a question? I said, yes, I understand you're not supposed to eat cookies, but do you have grandchildren, nieces, nephews? Don't you think if you had boxes of treats in your pantry, they might visit more often? And she looked at my mother and said, boy, she's good. So it's kind of inherent. It's just in my makeup.
I appreciate that. The world needs more of that right now. Like, it needs is a strong word, but I feel like the world would be very much benefit from more conversation like that right now.
Anytime.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing, Elinor. It's so your whole story is inspiring. Your strength, your inner voice speaks to mine. Like it's really encouraging because I feel the power in your voice, but it's contagious. Like you really, it's amazing how you forcefully share with such a loving, supportive message. And I really appreciate you just sharing with us, and I acknowledge you for what you're up to.
Well, thank you so much. It's a treat to be in your company, and I look forward to further conversation.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to check back with you in a little bit. We're going to invite our second guest in just a moment. But thank you so much, Elinor, for sharing.
See you in a bit, Elinor.
So thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with us. This stage has been an incredible opportunity for me, but we want to, this space is for you. We want to invite you to share your gift, your unique gift, your unique genius. That's something that we all benefit from. And when, as Elinor was saying, when we share our story, when we share ourselves, we share our struggles, what we've overcome and been through, we're helping others who don't necessarily know that they're not the only one feeling that way. We speak to others through our struggles, through our being authentic about where we've been inauthentic, being authentic about where we've been afraid. And I want to offer you an opportunity to be yourself. And this is a space for you to be accepted and loved. And no matter who you are or where you come from, this is a place for you to share your gift. Because I see it when you share your gift, it benefits me, and it benefits him, and it benefits her, it benefits everybody. And it's a gift. And when we all can share our gifts, we all receive 8 billion gifts. And it's a beautiful thing when we actually can recognize and share who we are. So that's an open invitation. And that's part of our mission here at One Day, which is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. Now I'd like to invite our second guest. We have Flo Devaul-Dudley. Hello, Flo.
Hello.
Nice to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, I'm really excited to have you and to hear you share. So I'm just going to let you hop into it, if that sounds good with you. Sound good?
Sounds awesome.
All right, Flo. Well, the stage is yours.
Thank you. All right. First thing I want you guys to do is to close your eyes and then imagine seeing a 7-year-old little girl or little boy. Keep your eyes closed because I want you to envision this story. You have this 7-year-old girl, 7-year-old boy getting ready for school. Happy-go-lucky. They're in their turquoise jumpsuit and white t-shirt. And then they're beckoned to come to the bedroom, thinking to get something from mom, dad, uncle, cousin, whomever. And then instead, when they go in there, they get molested. You can open your eyes. that 7-year-old was me. My story doesn't stop there. But that 7-year-old Flo, that one incident changed the complete trajectory of my entire life. After that incident happened, I went to my first grade teacher and tried to tell her, Miss Harris, but it was as if I had done something wrong. So being 7-year-old and a child that's trying to use the voice, and then it's as if you're being chastised or done something wrong, you go into your shell and your voice is silent. So from that moment on, I acted out as a child. But moving forward to 2015, Flo was in a car accident, a bad car accident. Partially paralyzed on the left side, lacerated liver, cartridges in my neck was missing, my brain shifted, all of that stuff. But Flo still didn't know what was going on because Flo was too busy taking care of everybody else that was involved in the car accident. Flo didn't know any of this until the next day when she woke up and she had blood in her urine and had to go to the emergency room. And that's when I found out everything that I just told you that was wrong with me. And from that point on, my life changed so much. The memories, that little 7-year-old girl whose voice was silent, those suppressed memories, all of that came back like a raging demon. Pandora box was unleashed on top of the PTSD from the car accident. Had to go through therapy, physical therapy for everything. Had to get injections, was on 10 plus meds to help cope with everything that was going on with me, and still trying to be a wife and a mother, trying to maintain. It wasn't easy. I became a functioning depressive person, not even knowing that I was depressed. But through it all in 2014, before the car accident, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I was like, I want to start a business. My husband was like, okay, go for it. Whatever you want to do, I support you. And so the Holy Spirit was like, you're going to start this business and gave me the name specifically, Shining Light in Darkness. I was like, okay, cool. I like that name. I can go with that. But I was like, what is it about? What's the premises? What is Shining Light in Darkness about? What do I do? How do I make money from it? And it wasn't until that car accident happened when 7-year-old Florida was never healed from being molested. Then young adult Florida wasn't healed from being raped. 30-year-old Florida wasn't healed from being abused domestically and sexually by her first husband. So that was what Shining Light in Darkness was about. Shining Light in Darkness became my nonprofit, not for-profit. Shining Light in Darkness was my light in my darkness. It wasn't an easy thing to do, to share my story, to allow myself to be vulnerable, to listen to other survivors, because I took on secondary trauma and everything. But yet and still I'm here. And Shining Light in Darkness, it's thriving, and I'm grateful for that. Shining Light in Darkness was birthed from my pain, from some of the worst experiences in my life, that some people would have taken alternate routes to deal and to cope with it. But all of my ways of coping with it wasn't always healthy. And that's what a lot of people refuse to talk about. I always tell people My movement started way before Me Too because I lost my voice at 7, but I regained it back in 2015 when I made the conscious decision to allow myself to become vulnerable. And when I became vulnerable, I became sick. I would be down for weeks, for times. The minimum amount of time I would be sick after sharing my story would be 3 days. And so I started going to therapy, traditional therapy. It didn't work for me. I started self-educating myself. Am I saying traditional therapy doesn't work for everybody? No, I'm not saying that. I said it didn't work for me. Self-education is what helped me heal and become whole. That's why Shining Light in Darkness focuses on the underserved, victims and survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, which are men, women of color, people with disabilities, veterans, the LGBTQIA plus community. And because of my experience, I know that everybody heals differently. And that is why that's the tagline for Shining Light in Darkness. And so much darkness, light overpower darkness. So we make sure that we help those survivors to regain their voice, refuse to be silent. It is not your fault because you did not know, regardless to anybody saying that, okay, you must have done something. A 7-year-old, nobody, I don't care if you're 7, 6, 15, 22, 81, nobody asks to be violated. Nobody asks to be taken advantage of. And then out of the pain, out of the trauma, I started a life coaching business. And it focuses on trauma. Since people call me the trauma woman because I talk about it and I can handle it, because I've embraced it. This is a part of who I am. And with anything traumatic that happens into your life, you first have to accept it. You have to own it. Not saying that it's your fault, but you own up to what happened to you. Yes, I was molested. Yes, I was raped. Yes, I was assaulted. Yes, my cousin, my husband, whoever did this to me. Just acknowledging it to start the healing process. And with my coaching business, that's why it focuses on trauma, because everybody needs that support system. Who better to do it than someone who have lived it, that has the life experiences to bring it in on top of the credentials to be a life coach, to help people that has endured so much trauma in their life. For me, I was listening to Elinor's story, and believe it or not, in my coaching business, the C-suites are one of the subsets, well, the primary women C-suites are my primary clients in coaching, because they deal with so much in a man's world that what should be obvious and what should be right and acceptable for a woman to do and be accepted in that industry, it's not. Women deal with trauma on a daily basis. And then being a C-suite executive, that's added trauma. On top of that, you got your job, you got your family, you have whatever else it is that you do to deal with, and you're trying to balance it. But because you haven't let go of that trauma and received that healing, you're still lost. You're still confused. You don't even see a way out. But there's always a way out, outside of drinking, outside of sex, outside of self-harming, outside of promiscuity, all of that. There's still hope. And if you want to heal, you have to take that first step in acknowledging that something happened to you, whatever that traumatic experience was. Again, out of my pain, birth my purpose. My purpose, shining light in darkness, to be a light in so much darkness, helping the victims and survivors heal, because everybody heals differently. with Florida Soars, my coaching business, sowing seeds of strength. Because in order to overcome the trauma that you've endured with whatever that traumatic experience was, somebody has to be there to guide you. Someone has to be there to sow those seeds of strength within you, to give you that courage to continue to move on, to go on day to day, to see a future, to see the light outside of all of the darkness. So what I continue to do is I continue to shine my light. I continue to sowing my seeds of strength to the world that I am helping elevate. And that's my story. If you need help, I am here. You can reach out to me on Facebook. You can reach out to me on Instagram, all social medias. I'm out there. My email address for more information, info@slidfnd.org for the nonprofit for any victims or survivors out there. And for the coaching, you can contact me at Devaul-Dudley.com. If you want to reach out to me for a consultation, do so. I'm here. And again, my primary clients are C-suite executive women, and my secondary are men and college students, because everybody needs help. Everybody needs help. And hey, because I'm known as the trauma woman, I'm here to help you. I'm sowing seeds of strength and shining my light. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Flo. It's so inspiring, you sharing your story, and all the trauma you've been through, and how you truly are shining a light in darkness. And I think that it's so beautiful to me, and I love that name, because it really does embody everything that you're saying. It's what is the exact quote? Darkness doesn't exist.
Yes.
Darkness is merely an absence of light. And I think it's beautiful, because we don't even, sometimes when we're in the midst of darkness, in the midst of suffering, in the midst of pain, we don't even realize we don't even think light exists. We don't even think about light until we're in a dark room, our eyes are closed. All of a sudden you see a light, and it's like everything shifts. And I think it's powerful. And I'm curious, was there a certain point that you found that light within yourself? Is there a specific time that stands out?
Yes. And to be honest, that light that I found within myself was actually due to COVID this year, because you do a lot to help other people. And don't get me wrong, what I do, it helps me heal on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, when you have so much quietness and you're left with only your thoughts and all of the stuff that you haven't resolved, and now you have to resolve it, COVID forced me to do that. And so with COVID, at first, it looked like it was a curse, because I couldn't shut this down. I couldn't keep it quiet. It was like the voices were getting louder and louder and louder. But then I was like, I submit. Whatever the universe is trying to tell me, I receive it, I embrace it, I accept it. And after that, I got peace, where I used to not see my outer beauty because of what happened to me at a young age. People would tell me all the time of how beautiful I was and all of the compliments that you can get in your lifetime. I received that, but I never could see it because of me looking at myself from when I was 7. But now where I'm at, I can see the true beauty that I possess inwardly and outwardly, and I embrace it.
That's beautiful. It's really, really powerful what you just shared. Matthew, are you going to say something?
Yeah. So much came up in your story when I was listening to you, and I don't know if we'll have time to get to all of it, but um, a friend of mine said once, the recipe to enlightenment is a still body, a quiet mind, and an open heart. And I love that, like the moment of you finding your light was in COVID, because that's like that seems to be the thing that's going around right now, right? Like,
Yes.
and it is those quiet, still moments when we have no choice, like when it's just there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go,
Mm-hmm.
just be
Yeah.
and let the light come in and let your own light shine. Um, there is a question, and it's not quite clear what it is yet. So, forgive me and just give me a second here to kind of
Okay.
talk through it. Um, a lot of this goes back to what I said at the very beginning, and I always find this funny how this kind of Abram even said at the beginning, like it all seems to just like circle around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this all to me points to that statement of, it's the crazy people that are running the insane asylum. And I don't say that to demonize. I don't say that to like vilify anyone. It's just what it seems like is it's all the people who have not recovered from their own trauma
Mm-hmm.
that are making the decisions that seem to guide most of the systems in the way this world works.
Yeah.
They're not speaking from their light, they're speaking from their darkness.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like? What is, I don't know how to say this exactly. Like it's
Take your time.
thank you. What does it feel like when you're working with clients and you finally see them connect to their light?
Freedom. It's like a burden that has been released off of me because I'm an empath too. So I can feel other people pain, hurt, and all of that stuff. And so when they finally break free from living in that victim mentality and out of that survivor's mode and out of thriving to actually living, it's like my purpose has been accomplished. And so not only did I shine a light in that darkness to help them heal how they wanted to heal, I still, with them, sowed my seeds of strength within them where they can go out and be productive in society, not allowing that trauma to keep them back or hold them down or cause them to do things that they would normally do that's not of themselves.
This to me is how we break the pattern. Like it's not going to be, it may become some big movement that like right now it's one person at a time is what it
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah. It's not about a movement or anything because movement comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the things that matter the most are the ones that are in the trenches about it before all of this movement started. They were in the background, making the changes, becoming the change that they want to see. And for me, I am the change that I want to see because I have survivors that have come to me and that felt like I felt, had low self-esteem, low confidence, didn't feel love, didn't feel like they were worthy of love, didn't feel like they were even fit to live because of what happened to them. It wasn't like they said, okay, I choose to have this to happen to me. No, we don't choose to be assaulted. None of that. We don't choose to. It's just sometimes how life operates. And for some, sometimes when that happens, it breaks them. Where I know some survivors have killed themselves, have turned to the streets of prostitution, alcohol, and drugs, and some are just in the grave in itself. But because of my resilience, with all that I've endured, and I haven't even shared half of my story, this is just like a tenth of my story regarding trauma, what I've been through. I'm still here. And if I can make it, so can you. It doesn't matter if it's a male, female, transgender, homosexual. That has nothing to do with healing. It's just having that right support system to help you through it.
May I offer a slightly different possibility in all this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of this is true or not. Like, this is just based on my own experiences and my own journey. I was a stillbirth. I was born dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm alive today is because my dad had been doing a lot of research before I was born, and he'd heard about a new device called an in vitro heart monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that the hospital that I was born in had gotten one of these devices like 3 days before I was born. And even though the doctors weren't trained on it, they didn't want to use it, they didn't want to put it on, my dad insisted, like forced them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were able to detect when my heart stopped because the umbilical cord had wrapped around my neck and had choked me out.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to yank me out and resuscitate me. And I didn't really know that story growing up. I didn't find that out until much later in life. But my entire life, most of what I can remember in my childhood, was the sense of not wanting to be here. Like, not like I didn't choose this. I did not choose this. I did not choose this. Like, I didn't, like, this was forced upon me.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, I was living on Kauai and went to a retreat with now a really good friend of mine. We became really close friends after this. And as part of that retreat, he took me on a shamanic journey called a soul retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like this, it's an out of body experience. And it was done with all 12 of us at that retreat. So Bruce, who was leading it, was kind of like speaking out loud what he was seeing for people who maybe couldn't envision, like didn't have that mental eye as strong as some of the others did. And so, most people were just following along, but I was going with them. And so I was seeing some things before Bruce would talk about it. And then he would talk about it and be like, oh, I'm like, this is like, what the hell? Like,
Uh-huh.
But we finally get down into the Valley of Lost Souls, where like this is like a place where some like pieces of souls are stored when they're not fully embodied.
Mm-hmm.
And we find the cave where my soul is, and my dad is there waiting on us,
Mm-hmm.
and he won't let us in.
Okay.
And he just keeps saying, "I can't let you see. I can't let you see. I can't let you see." And finally, I just got like really frustrated. I was like, "You can't let me see what? Like what? Like what's going on here? Like what can't you let me see?"
Mm-hmm.
And he looks dead at me and he goes, "The life that you could have had." Bunch of other stuff happened. We ended up retrieving the piece of the soul, came back, put it in my body, and like literally the like it was like I had never truly breathed before that moment. Like that was the first breath I truly took, that I chose to take.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of that moment was I had a choice. Like I could have chosen not to come back.
Correct.
And I was finally choosing to be here for me.
Yes.
Fast forward a few years later, and a whole bunch of other stuff happened. And I didn't meet her, but I came across her. I met the life that I could have had.
Okay.
And there was this flash of memories that all came back with that. I chose to create that situation of the stillbirth at the very beginning. I chose it before I came into the body. I chose it. I chose everything. And so, and this realization that I created this situation to set up a unique learning opportunity for me in this lifetime.
True. I agree.
I want to bring Elinor back in the conversation here.
Okay.
That was so powerful, everything you shared, Flo, and I want to incorporate Elinor, because without trying, there's always some kind of connection, and I'm seeing it's that inner voice that we either see or we don't see, and it feels like those are the two classifications of humans. Like, we can either see it or not, and most of us are looking and don't even know it. And I just want to give you an opportunity to share. Is Elinor or Flo, is there anything that resonated with each other's share that you'd like to speak to?
I mean, when she was talking about how she was treated in corporate America, and with what I do with the life coaches for C-suite women, it just ties right into it, because dealing with that, it's traumatic. Women are emotional beings anyway. And then to have unwanted stress added to you, no. And then you add on top of some of those C-suite executive women having sexual assault and the domestic violence that happens on a daily basis. You'd be amazed at the statistics, but they don't have an outlet an outlet that they trust. Let me do it that way, that they believe that would be confidential. That's one of the things that I help with the C-suite. And I was like, wow, when she started talking about that definitely resonated with me, letting me know, okay, this is the right way to go. Stay with it. It's gonna be all right.
Well, your story is extremely powerful, and you said something that we have in common, because one of the things I usually say, but did not this time, is that our darkest tunnels lead to the brightest light. And you kind of said that. And your story, Matthew, is incredible too. It's very empowering, amazing. And then Abram, you said something about talking to yourselves or knowing. I grew up in a household where there was almost no conversation, so I used to talk to myself in the mirror. I've never said that publicly before. But growing up, my best friend was that reflection in the mirror. And I think that through the years, I kind of continue that. Sometimes when I have an issue, I talk out both sides out loud. I remember one time I was in a sales pen and somebody came in and said, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "Oh, myself. I'm just figuring out a problem."
Sometimes that's what it takes. Just talking. I mean, how you were starting, Flo. It's like it's the relationship with ourselves in every point of our life. It's our young adult relationship. It's our 5-year-olds. Like some of my biggest uncoverings of my own, stepping out of my own darkness was me confronting or facing and just communicating with things my 5-year-old self was dictating. And the conversation I had with myself that I never acknowledged, like, just fears and of not being enough and not belonging and just hiding in my own skin, not showing up to the world, just trying to just avoid conflict, just, the habits I developed just with that small conversation, being codependent, being a people pleaser, the nice guy, and, and then going to college and, starting to play music and noticing people started like me now. So, but I don't want them to know that I don't know myself, that I don't think I'm enough on my own. So I would hide behind a pair of sunglasses so they would come to me, but only at like an arm's length. And it would be like, it's that conversation that dictates it's like the undistinguished conversation, because like whether we say it or not to ourselves and acknowledge it or not, it still runs the show without us knowing it.
Yeah, it still changes the trajectory of your life. And one thing that Matthew said that I love is that at the end of the day, it's all about choices. And any and everything that we do, we have a choice. We could choose to remain that 5-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 8-year-old, or that stillbirth. It's a choice. And then once we decide that we want to live, we want the life that has been afforded to us, then and only then can we truly live. Because like you, when you have unresolved issues in your life, you're going to always try to fit in, but you're never going to fit in because you haven't dealt with yourself. And so the first thing is to love yourself. Like I said, acknowledge what happened first. And from that moment on, that's when the true healing starts, because then you can start seeing the beauty you possess and the value and your worth. And for everyone that goes through certain things in life, they stop seeing the value in themselves. And then they start becoming codependent on whether it's a significant other or a substance. But no, you can change your complete trajectory of your life by just acknowledging what happened to you. 7-year-old Florida, had I known what I knew now, I would have spoken up a long time ago. But guess what? It wasn't meant for that to happen, because had it happened then, Shining Light in Darkness wouldn't have been birthed, and I wouldn't be able to help others, so many more, come out of that darkness into the marvelous light. And then I wouldn't even know anything about sowing seeds of strength to anyone. But it's all through that pain and trauma that I experienced where I found my true purpose and calling.
Right. That's beautiful. It's that awareness that, you know, allows us to live by choice and not by chance. You know?
Yes.
That's what I see as the full circle message. You know, it's like, it's a choice. It's to distinguish and see our inner voice, and choose to follow that, and to not be disabled by the fear that's going to be there, or by the old conversations that'll be there. But we don't have to follow them. We can see them and say, thank you for speaking up, but I've got work to do. I'm busy right now. Or, you know, it's,
yeah. Or I'm not going to even listen to it. Right. One thing that I love doing is, for you guys and everybody that's listening to us today, is that if something, I don't do negativity or toxicity, none of that. That is not allowed into my or my environment at all. And so if someone speaks something to you, immediately say, I cancel that. That way it's null and void. It won't attach itself to you. A lot of people just let people speak things over them, and then it become attached to them. So subconsciously, they start believing what was previously said by them, and they don't even know where that came from. You immediately cancel that. I used to say reject it, but no, you cancel it. That way it's not gonna, there's no beginning or end, no formation, nothing. It's null and void.
Absolutely.
I love that. That reminds me a lot of exercise that we use in like a lot of it. This comes from a Native American exercise, shamanic exercise. Visualize the words as arrows just passing right through. They don't attach. They just pass right through. And have no effect. And there's one more thing that feels really, really important to bring up in all this. Choice, all of this whole conversation about choice, it really seems like that's part of the process of incarnating here, of coming into these bodies, is forgetting that we have that power. And it's in the forgetting that we have the experiences that then allow us to, okay, I have a choice. Can I be loving in the face of this? Can I be loving in the face of that? Can I be loving in the face of that?
Yeah. It's a choice.
It's the choice.
It's all a choice. I wanted to give both of you an opportunity to say any last words before we close up here. Elinor, did you have anything you'd like to say?
It was a very moving experience. I appreciate everybody's input, and it sounds like we're all on the same page. And I'd like to make an offer. It goes back to community service. And I had a realization the beginning of the year that my blog became popular. And I realized now's the time to ask leaders in varying fields, it doesn't matter what field, to offer their personal story. I learned years ago via Dale Carnegie to share your personal story. And that's what helped me do so well in sales. It was an extra factor. So in the blog, I share my story, what I'm thinking at the time. On Friday, I'm asking leaders to share their personal story. I have blog guidelines all set up, and about the worst obstacles you overcame, how you were motivated to do it, and advice you'd give to the younger readers, because my mission is to help younger people reading the blog advance their careers more successfully. I don't want them to have all the hurdles that I had. So if any of you are interested, I'd be more than happy to share the blog guidelines and then schedule it as, your story comes in. And it's just so you know, it's distributed to corporations, executives, salespeople, entrepreneurs, and media. And it's getting, because I did this originally on laziness, if you want to know the truth. But it turned out I'm reaching a much bigger audience now because so many different people are contributing. Even executives at companies are contributing their stories. So kind of an exciting time, and we're all at home, so more people are reading the blog. If you have interest, let me know.
Wonderful. We're gonna get both of your links and email or any contact info that we're gonna put in the section of the info section of the video. So
Great.
Everybody will have an opportunity to reach out to both Elinor and Flo. But Flo, you have anything you'd like to add?
I just like to thank you guys for having me and sharing your platform with me just to share my story.
Well, it's been a real pleasure for us. It's been inspiring to have you both share and just contribute. Contribute your transformation that's the gift of transformation. When we share our stories and we're vulnerable and we're authentic, others receive it and can connect with it, and it's a gift that keeps giving. And that's why every time I do this virtual stage, I'm just so empowered. I just feel it, like all the woes and things in the back of my mind that I might be holding, it's just like I feel so comforted in the human spirit that is just perseveres, not only perseveres and thrives, but it shines in darkness. It's like I say this a lot, but it's like humans are like diamonds and pearls. Under pressure, our true beauty can shine, and it's just like you two are just evidence and proof of that. And I'm just so inspired, and I'm just so happy that just knowing in the world there's you walking around and making other people's days better and making this world better. And I think that's ultimately what makes a new era and a new earth, and that's COVID is opening up. So I hope both of you will come back and share with us some more. And this has just been an awesome, amazing experience and conversation. So just thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was a wonderful opportunity. And it was nice to meet you, Flo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both, Flo and Elinor. And thank you who are tuning in. This has been an amazing conversation for me. It's always an inspiring journey. I want to invite you again to share on this stage, share your story, share your gift, because we all gain from it. I know I do, and I know everybody else has something to gain from your story, because we all can connect to it. And this is really what this stage is about. It's a space for you to contribute your story and your gift. We want to encourage you to go to our website. You can get connected with us. You have opportunities to contribute your time, your energy, your voice on this stage. So we encourage you and invite you to join us here. And this is all part of our one-day vision, which is humanity rising in a connected world with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what we're doing. And I feel every day the vision is becoming more and more reality with people like Flo and Elinor and all of you for joining us. So thank you. We'll see you next Tuesday. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody.